vast majority of you are killing your gains. You're not reaching your full potential because you're not doing this one strength building technique that has been proven dramatically improve your strength, build muscle, activate more muscle fibers. What is it? Isometrics. You got to do those.
Yeah.
We'll start with the first thing that I just said, which is the data shows that isometrics, in particular, overcoming isometrics, it's a type of isometric, activates more muscle fibers within a muscle than any other type of strength training technique.
Yeah.
It's so effective at activating.
So effective, so powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So whenever you're exercising, or you're strength training, I should say, part of the goal is to activate more muscle fibers. This is one of the factors, not the only factor, it's one of the factors that determines, well, how much muscle and strength am I going to build? And the more muscle fibers you can recruit, the more effective you're making the exercise. And more advanced lifters are able to do this more effectively. Somebody who's been working out for 10 years can activate more muscle fibers than somebody who just got started. It's a technique you can learn and grow with over time. You can build the skill. But if you really want to activate the most muscle fibers, like isometrics does this better than lifting heavy, better than lifting light, better than, eccentric contractions, which is when you lower the weight, or concentric, where you raise the weight. Just holding steady and driving into something or pulling into something or squatting into something that doesn't move, that'll activate the most muscle fibers.
Well, you guys know what an evangelist I've been forever since we started the podcast, but I'm trying to highlight this as well in the series I'm doing right now, because the pursuit is like a PR, it's a strength goal. And so to even get my body to respond again at that high level, to be able to start really working on the recruitment of it. Like, I really have to summon as many muscle fibers as possible. The only way for me to do that in a safe, effective way is through these types of isometrics.
Yes.
I saw you training that way the other day, getting ready for your lifts. It'd be really interesting for people to watch as you progress through that. Why do you think it's not as popular?
Great question. I'm so glad you asked that, Adam, because I was just asked this on a recent podcast that I was on.
I can answer that too.
Yeah, I know you'll know the answer. So what's crazy is isometrics were extremely popular with strength athletes way back in the day. It was like one of the preferred ways of exercise. Back when strength athletes or even bodybuilders had to show what they could lift. Back in the day, like, it was great looking muscular, but you also had to perform. And the way that these bodybuilders at the turn of the century, or the previous century, I should say, the way that they made money was they competed. They would go on a stage and see who could lift the most weight. And so the isometrics were one of their favorite forms of exercise. Isometrics are done in other strength sports quite a bit, but they're not as popular because they don't look cool. Like if I film myself doing an isometric, what am I doing? I'm not moving. It's not nearly as cool or awesome or fun to look at. So it just doesn't sell as much as me lifting a weight.
Absolutely.
But it is.
Is that really the theory?
Yeah, that's not just the theory, it's a fact.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to talk about the general population and like what you see in the gyms, like if you just look at that as a big pie chart, even just performance in general is going to be this tiny sliver, and I noticed this because of what I'm passionate about is like totally not popular. And so now you're taking that. On top of that, you get isometrics, which is like, you don't get any glorified videos showing this to where it looks exciting, and people don't really understand the value of it to the degree because they're not trying, I guess, like the pursuits towards having like these PRs and strength goals. I don't think that a lot of people are actually pursuing it.
No. I don't know if I agree with that. I think it has to be like just a lack of education, because the stupid things that people do in the fitness space to gain the competitive edge or get a little bit better is that they don't all, I mean, come on, you have men wearing corsets to get their waist down an inch. You have dudes lugging around an E-stim machine this big, sticking a bunch of things on themselves while they work out in order to get this much more
hypertrophy,
this much more out of training and stuff like that. So why?
No, you're right, Adam. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But the reason why we're here, the reason why there's so little education or so little discussion around isometrics is because it doesn't look as cool. It's harder to sell. So it fell out of favor and people forgot about them. But if you look at the data, There's a lot of data. There's a lot of studies on isometric contraction training.
When they compare it to others, the curve is faster, right?
The strength
the gains come on faster on isometrics than they do.
Fast and furious in a very short period of time. Now, you'll plateau faster. By the way,
you'll plateau. Yeah,
you'll plateau faster with isometrics, but that initial strength gain is ridiculous. And isometrics should not be used alone. That's the thing. Well, if you use them in a routine, it's like you're going to add jet fuel to your current routine. Is what's going to happen.
And to do it in the very beginning makes the most sense because it's so much less damaging, and so you can recover quickly from it. And you're really just priming your body for more force production.
That's right. I guess you're right because I remember arguing this when we were building map symmetry. I don't remember which one of you wanted to do like a full phase of isometrics, and I'm like, bro, you can't do that. No. People will be bored to death. Yep. I don't care if it gives you better results than anything else. People won't stick with it, and so I
couldn't argue against that because I totally, just training clients, like I see that it gets mundane. So
to me, that's the secret sauce is if you're a trainer listening is. Because you know the benefits is learning to integrate it into your regular training. That way because at the end of the day, you have to appease the client too. At the end of the day, like your client has to show back up. You got to be able to help them. It's like, and I don't care if isometrics are the best, because in a perfect world, if you think about it, based off the way the research points, it would make sense that almost all programs, when someone's getting back into the gym or getting started for the first time, should look very isometric based to begin up. It's the safest, brings on the most gains, less likely probably to overreach too. I mean, you could still overreach doing isometric.
You could tax your CNS, but still you're going to recover.
No. So here's the deal. So to be clear, a just isometric routine is applicable for a small segment of the population, like injury. When we're looking at risk assessment. The way isometrics should be used for most people is in conjunction or to supplement or to turbocharge their current routine. That's how you use isometrics. And strength athletes who compete in sports where they have to, by the way, actually I'm going to take it back. All strength sports, including bodybuilding where you just pose, they all use isometrics. Bodybuilders use isometrics. They practice posing. Posing is isometrics. And bodybuilders will tell you posing after your workout. Arnold used to talk about this all the time. That posing after his workout brought out, he would say, more definition, more muscle control. Powerlifters have used isometrics forever. They use yielding isometrics quite a bit. Yielding isometrics are like, I lower a weight and I hold it.
They're holding it,
Overcoming isometrics would be me pushing against something that can't move.
Yeah, like a wall.
Yeah, that activates more muscle fibers. Yielding a little bit less, but both of them extremely valuable. And all the strength, Olympic lifters use isometrics. I mean, of course, the top of all of their Olympic lifts is a very strong isometric where they're holding that position.
Well, and I love the yielding because for me, it's like whenever you see a weight and it looks like intimidating, just to be able to hold it and like acclimate to it, there's a lot of value in that.
Yes. In fact, starting your workout with isometrics is a great way to work out always. So whatever your workout is doing, if you added a couple sets of isometrics before you did your lifts, the rest of your lifts will be more effective. That's like a very easy, basic, general way to add isometrics in your training.
This supports the a little bit, right? Even though I know I'm not a fan of it because I think it could also cause poor recruitment patterns and is not ideal. But I mean, this is probably why a lot of the bros continued to work out with your training partner, where you had the overcoming isometrics, where you give them 315 on the bench press, even though he can, and they just grinding away on it because they probably saw results. Yeah, they probably saw gains.
You said you did that, right? Didn't you say that someone had to do that?
Oh yeah, that's how. I mean, that was both squatting and bench pressing. This is early. I'm like 20. I'm 21, 22, maybe at the early, 22 at the latest. And I was training with some old school dudes that were much older than me that took me under their wing, and I just was following their routine. And I remember he's like getting me to squat, and I'm just like, at that point, bro, I could like squat a plate. That's it. You know what I'm saying? He's like, let's put 315 on. I'm like, I've never seen 2 plates, dog. He's like, oh, you'll be fine. Don't worry, I got you. You know what I'm saying? And they get behind me. And same thing for the bench press. Like at that time, it was.
And he just had you hold the weight.
Yeah, but I mean, he's supporting me, right? He just wanted me to feel. That was what he kept telling me was this: you just need to feel it. Your body needs to feel the weight. It'll acclimate.
He didn't have the science to explain.
Yeah, it'll get acclimated. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and it did kind of make sense theoretically. Like, okay, like I guess you're right. Like if I've never felt anything close to that, if I can get comfortable with just
the shock of it,
right? If I can just get over that fear, then when I go down to 225 will feel so much easier.
There's an old piece of exercise equipment that Bruce Lee used to use, and you can still find this. It's literally it's like a board with 2 chains and then a bar.
Yeah.
And you would stand
on
the
old McKee gym had it.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah,
and you would do these isometrics on it, and Bruce Lee was a huge fan of isometrics, and he would talk about how much it contributed to his ability to generate force.
You just
and power.
lower it down with the links.
You lower the link, yes.
Yeah.
So you can get underneath it, you could pull it, whatever.
Yeah.
The other part of isometrics that are great is you can do them frequently. Because you don't get sore from isometrics like you do other type of muscle contractions. It doesn't cause as much damage. It's still stress on the body, but not as stressful as a traditional exercise. You can do them often. So if you're looking at your routine and you want to add a little more to get better results, because sometimes that's challenging. Okay, if I add more, am I going to do more than my body's going to be able to adapt to? What do I do? Start with isometrics. You could do these at home. You can do isometrics at home, add 15 minutes of it every single day to your routine, and you've added something that's probably, for many people, going to significantly improve their strength and muscle gain and not really compromise their recovery. It's one of those tools that is powerful yet not as damaging, and that's valuable. It's very valuable when you're trying to program your workout, or if you're a trainer or coach trying to add things to your client's routine without stressing them or stressing their bodies too much.
So from the audience that cares about this, some people won't care about this, but there's got to be some percentage that care about their calves. This was like, and I noticed a difference when I'm doing this and when I'm not doing this. I happen to be not in one of the times of doing this right now, and I can tell. I do isometric calf holds in the shower, and that's all I do.
Just take a shower on your toes.
Yes, I swear to God, and I swear to God, when I do that every morning in the shower, and that's all I'm doing, just that alone, I see a significant difference in my calf. Just that alone by itself.
Yeah,
nothing else. Just at least doing that. And I mean, again, it's not going to grow world-class calves, but if you're somebody who is looking for a little bit more from your calves, you're in the shower already. Yeah. It's not hard. I also think there's a little bit of stability in there too. It's good for ankle strength and mobility. So there's like other benefits. That's kind of like how I justify it. And I would do that, and I notice a big difference.
The other thing about isometrics, which this is very rarely will you see this combination with a strength training or exercise technique, and a combination of extreme effectiveness, but also mirrored with very low risk of injury. Usually, the more effective something is, the risk of injury
goes
or
up
the
too.
Skill required to perform it starts to come up as well.
Yeah.
Like some of the best exexercises typically require the most skill, and they typically come with a high risk of injury because the skill required to do them is there's so much skill required. Isometrics require very little skill. You're not moving. It's the safest muscle contraction you can do. Now, can you hurt yourself doing isometric? Of course.
Yeah.
But you're far less likely. So this is a form of exercise that you can do when you're injured, when you're rehabbing. So this is the best strength training technique for rehabbing an injury. And it's excellent for people who are deconditioned. This is how I would, many times I would do isometrics with my advanced age clients because it was so safe. And the strength gains would be so, like we said earlier, so fast and so furious.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, the only other comparable thing in terms of safety and like having like a lot of return from it is like a sled or like something that's like all concentric that then you can get rid of at any time. It's not anything you need to stabilize. It's not anything that, is going to give you those forces back where you have to slow down. So you can do that with like throwing something or, so there's some other ways to do, but there's not a lot of options where it's like you can get that much return for the safety and the risk being low.
This is also, for that reason, this is great for rehab purposes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So when you have somebody who is, and you're trying to wonder like, is it too early to really start the rehab? You start them in the isometric place. This is the safest, smartest place. Just when I went through that injury with my pec, like that was like the isometrics were the first things that I was already practicing right away. Even when I was probably too early to start the rehab process, I could at least start creating contraction in there and recruiting there, so you can start to get some sort of development or at least slow down the atrophy part.
That's right. Hey, sorry to interrupt you. Look, are you lifting weights, eating a ton of food, and struggling? You're not packing on any muscle. You're not building any muscle at all. You're not getting stronger. Well, check it out. We have a hard gainer guide. This can be your ultimate resource to turn that around. Pack on some muscle mass with our hard gainer guide. It's totally free. You can get it by downloading it, clicking on the link in the description below. What's also cool about them is that you can do them anywhere. They require very, very little equipment. It's super versatile. You don't need much to do it, which makes it something you can practice frequently. And again, practicing these frequently because they don't cause lots of damage, it's an incredible addition to almost any routine. I mean, I'm gonna say it very clear. Most people, if you start to apply isometrics to your routine, you're gonna add a grand total of 10 minutes to your workout, but you're probably gonna get a 10% or more improvement in your results, which very few things you can do for 10 minutes will give you that much of an improvement. It's pretty remarkable. And by the way, do them at the beginning of your workout if you really want to do them best. And then here's something for people with home gyms. I had a friend of mine who did this, and I'm thinking about doing this myself. He was super, super into strength training. He was like a student of the game. So he lived in my old neighborhood. And what he did is he bolted, what are those ring bolts called that you put?
Eye bolts.
He put 2 eye bolts deep into the concrete, and then he attached chains to it, and he would put the chains on a bar. And he could get underneath it with a bench, and he could do overcoming isometrics with a bench. Sick. He could do a deadlift on it. He could do a squat on it, an overhead press just by lengthening the chain, getting the bar and pushing, and it wouldn't move.
Yeah, I've drilled those into a platform before.
Have you done that?
Yeah.
And then, like I said, Bruce Lee used to use one. It looked like that. It was like a plank with chains and then another, like a bar.
And what's funny is too, like strength athletes know this as well to use them too prior to trying to go for your max lift and to get that kind of recruitment at the highest point, but not to the point of fatigue. You let off and then you go perform, and it's like all of a sudden you've already summoned all these muscle fibers.
They're ready to go. They're totally primed.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Right. Anyway, so I was having a conversation. I was on some other podcasts recently, and the conversation started to revolve around exercise for kids because, well, I mean, we know obesity and poor health and chronic health conditions. It's affecting every age group, every single age group, but it's probably saddest to see in children because children used to be a category that was untouched by chronic health issues.
Well, it's obesity. Also sad because the way they got there is through learned behavior. Yeah, it's like they didn't. Most of them don't know better yet. You know what I'm saying? They ate what their parents fed them or allowed them to. Yeah, that's what makes that so sad and difficult.
It's very, very challenging. I remember when I first got my first certification in 1997, they had just changed the name of adult onset diabetes to type 2 diabetes. It used to be called adult onset diabetes because adults got it. Yeah. And it was you develop diabetes through an unhealthy lifestyle. They changed it to type 2 diabetes because they started seeing kids get it. And now you still see this. You see this even more. So anyway, conversation was around children. And the question was like, how do you train kids? Like, how should kids exercise? How should I? And what I said to them, and I think this is important to communicate to our audience because we have a lot of listeners who have children, the most important thing to consider when it comes to exercise for your kids is not the programming. It's not the exercise itself. It's not even the technique. These are all important. I'm not saying those are important, but they're not the most important. The most important thing to consider is the relationship your child builds with exercise.
Are they enjoying it?
Yes. Because what you don't want to do, and I've seen this already, I've seen this in the fitness space with fitness fanatics and their kids, they create such a poor relationship with exercising their kids. We've all seen this with sports, like the dad that forces their kid to play soccer or whatever and just makes them hate it so much they never want to do it again. The most important thing with your kids is that they enjoy it. So when you're doing exercise with your kids and they don't want to do what you're telling them to do, that's okay. Make it fun. Yeah. Because what you want is for them to have you want them to have this relationship to where when they grow up, they want to continue doing it versus they do the perfect routine, but they hate it and you're forcing them to do it. Then they become a teenager, they rebel, and that's it. They don't want to do it anymore.
That's why I think some of the best advice is purely play.
Yes.
I mean, I think that, my son's not a big athletic person. He's not into sports whatsoever. He's showed little interest in me lifting here and there, but not really. But he's active. we wrestle, we run, we play, we do a lot of other things, and he's physical, and he eats whole foods, and he doesn't need to strength train yet. And I don't even need to think about pushing it on him or talking about it to him. It's like there'll come a time as he sees his mom and his dad do it very consistently inside our house, and so he gets to see it and be around it. But he eats the foods we eat, and he sees what we do on a regular basis, that I don't even worry about this. Like, I mean, I don't even think, it's not even a thought of like, oh, when do I introduce this to him or what? It's like, no, at this point he's an active, but I can understand why this has become such a big topic, because I think a lot of that has to do with the processed foods that we're allowing our kids to eat and the iPads.
It's the environment.
If you allow these kids to sit on iPads for 4 hours and they're eating Cheetos, then even at 4, 5, 6 years old, you're going to start to see them put on excessive weight. But if they're eating whole foods and they're active, they're playing. I don't know a 5-year-old that isn't attached to an iPad, that isn't running around the house and climbing and jumping on things and doing stuff. Even my son, who's not an athlete, he's not into sports, he's not into playing like that, but he's definitely jumping off the couch into the beanbag. He's chasing me up and down the stairs. Like, they're active. And so, the way I look at it is like, as long as we keep the nutrition, good choices around there, we don't ever allow him to, sit on an iPad for an extended period of time. Like, they'll stay very healthy for a very long time. And then I figure at one point he'll probably get into junior high or high school, and maybe then he'll be interested in sports. And even if he's not, maybe then he might get interested in strength training, and he'll come to me, and he'll have seen his mom and dad creating these behaviors for so long that it'll be a very natural progression. It doesn't have to be this like forced relationship with it.
You talk about processed food. If you go through your grocery store and you look at foods that are marketed and made for kids, that is 95% processed food.
Yeah.
Like they're all extremely
bright
processed
colored food dyes.
And yes, it does. And I'm a parent. Okay. I get it. It's a lot of work. Then the biggest struggle that you challenge with when you're challenged with when you feed your kid is just like, they're not going to eat it. Like, are they going to eat it? They're not going to eat it, type of deal. So it's easy to give them something that they like and they'll eat. So I get that it's a challenge. In the food industry, it goes in that direction. Okay. Can we make foods that people will buy, and then people buy things that are easy for their kids to eat or that they like? But here's why it's even worse for kids than it is for adults. Forget the fact that they're little and that, it's terrible to see chronic health issues with children. Their brains are developing and they're hyperplastic much more than as an adult. Like, our brains are still plastic, but there's plasticity in a child's brain that at a certain age, you don't have anymore. Like, if a kid learns 4 languages before a certain age, they'll have no accent in all of them. They'll speak all fluently. I can learn 4 languages and every single one's going to have an English accent because I speak English, and that's it. My brain isn't as plastic. So what happens when a kid is exposed to frequently hyper palatable engineered foods is their brain molds itself to these foods. It actually molds and shapes itself to this food to the point where there are going to be permanent changes when they're an adult. Now, they can change their eating habits and all that stuff, but they'll have a pull towards hyper palatability that they wouldn't have had had they not been exposed, that will probably stay with them forever. It's like giving a kid drugs at a young age versus an adult, using drugs or whatever. It's like both are bad, but for a child, it's totally different. So
the key to this is, and I can't stress this enough to people that are listening that don't have kids yet, or you're about to have a kid. The key is what you introduce and what is in your home initially. It's once you let the cat out of the bag, and how early you do that and how often you do that is what's going to set you up for success or failure. If you do a really good job of when that time comes, when that kid is born, at Whole Foods is all we have in the house and all we eat, they won't know better. They won't know anything but that. And eventually they will get introduced and they will have friends. But what's cool is that if you've built that relationship with food for 3, 4, 5 years of consistently eating Whole Foods, they will have a good relationship with that stuff. And it's so cool to watch that unfold now that my son is going to be 6 years old this year. And he's got friends, and he's had fruit snacks now, and he's had candy now, and he's had it all. My son's tried everything, but the relationship he has with it is a trip.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. He knows it's so unique. He knows it's a big deal if he gets to even try it or have it because it's just not normally in our house. So when his friend comes over and his friend's got fruit snacks and things like that, and I allow him to have it, sure, he allows it, but we don't go buy it. We don't go to the grocery store. But I also don't deprive him and say, no, you can't have that. Watch your friend eat his fruit snacks and you can't. Of course not. But because we laid that foundation, it's a real easy thing to manage.
That's why the relationship part's so important, because at some point they're going to navigate the world on their own. So, back to exercise, you want your kids to have this great memory and great experience with exercise so that they don't rebel against it or think of it as some negative thing. As they get older. So that's the most important thing. It's not the workout.
And you have the ability to really create that environment that's inviting like that. And like you were talking about, just play, like wrestling, jumping, running, anything outside, experiencing hikes, doing like whatever it is that's active and fun and engaging and creates movement. There's ways to construct that, even if you're limited on space.
I was looking up one of our partners, Juve, right? They do red light therapy. Do you know how soon people start to see changes in their skin after using?
Immediately.
So it's like 2 or 3 sessions.
I was going to say, I swear I noticed right after the first
2 or 3 sessions, people will notice.
Yeah.
So the collagen, the way it stimulates collagen production is so remarkable. It's actually quite profound. It literally turbocharges collagen production in your skin, and people will notice within 2 or 3 sessions. Definitely by 10 sessions. By 10 sessions, people are like, "Oh, I noticed a big difference."
I mean, I think that's what I don't think it would have gained the traction in the legs had it not produced results that quick.
Yeah,
because people.
If it took like a month or 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the hardest reasons to sell fitness and exercise for people is because it takes time. If in 2 sessions I could show people dramatic change in their physique, everybody would do it. You know what I'm saying?
Not constantly in their ear. It's coming.
But yeah, I remember when we first got introduced to the Juve Light and I started using it, and it's like it's almost like you have this. Your skin has this glow. And I noticed it right. I think I noticed it right at the first session. I'm pretty sure it was the first session, but I definitely can tell when I'm not using it and I go right to using it. You just have this kind of light glow to your skin.
Can we find like a manly way to describe that? I'm at a loss. I know what you're talking about, and I'm like, oh, it's like a baby's butt.
Well, maybe just my complexion glows. I don't know what yours would do. Yours is fades. Does yours fade? What does yours do?
I just
go from
radiant,
translucent to
face is radiant.
Yeah,
I don't know any terms for that.
I read a study the other day that I would love to. So let's see if you guys can poke holes. The study itself isn't a problem. I'll pull it up. It's that.
Are we going to talk about how fat you are today or no?
No, what?
Okay.
We'll get there. Jesus Christ. I don't know how you're so good with numbers, dude. It's ridiculous how good you are with numbers. Okay, so this study, and I was kind of I did a post about it and I was a dick and I took it down because I'm like, I shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't talk like that. But I read the study, I read the post, and it's by Brad Schoenfeld, which I love. He's got great research. This dude's got some of the best research.
I read his
love his stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely love his stuff. But sometimes these studies, many times, they give us good information, but then a trainer or a coach or a fitness influencer will try and take it and apply it, and they start to miss the forest for the trees. So I'll read you what he wrote. Right. So they did a study comparing cluster sets to traditional sets for muscle hypertrophy. So you guys know what a cluster set is, right? Yep. That's where you do so many reps, you wait 10 seconds, do more reps.
I like them.
Okay, so do I. So here's what it says. Our new study showed similar increases in muscle thickness between cluster sets and traditional sets. Okay, in other words, equal. Now here's the part where I'm like, okay. When total volume and intensity of effort were equated between conditions. Here's the deal. I don't know anybody who has ever done a cluster set and not dramatically increase the intensity. It never comes along with the same intensity as a traditional set. It's always a intensity increaser. This is why people will swear by cluster sets. It works so great.
It ramps it up. Yeah.
So in a study, they controlled that. But in the real world, nobody controls that.
Nobody would control that.
Perceived effort. So I think they're just like, how
so you'd have to make the cluster set so light that it doesn't.
It doesn't. I mean, I don't know how they did it.
One of the things that makes the cluster set so awesome
it's the intensity
is you can grab a weight that you can't complete, say, 12 reps with, and you do these little sets of 4 basically and set it back down, and it allows you in a short period of time to do 20 reps of something you can never do 20 straight reps.
That's right.
So of course the intensity is going to increase.
Yeah.
And so if you had to match the intensity as the same as a straight set, then you would defeat the purpose of why I do the cluster set.
Or you make the straight set
you would
super intense or something.
Well, you would have to, you either have to make the straight set super intense to failure or beyond, or you would have to reduce the intensity in the cluster set so much that it almost defeats the purpose of doing the cluster set.
Yeah, and it also doesn't take into account. So here's the real world. Here's what happens in the real world when someone uses a cluster set.
Like where our studies go bad, bro.
Well, I like the study, but it doesn't apply to it. Like in the real world, this is not how they're used. Right?
So how, did you see like some trainer clowning on it? Or
no. He just did this post, and then people are commenting underneath like, "Oh, all these variations don't mean anything. Just do traditional sets." And I'm like, "Well, you guys missed it. I said, in the real world, when cluster sets are applied, there's usually almost always 2 factors that you see. One, intensity is increased. Nobody does a cluster set and has the same intensity as before. It's always a way to increase intensity. So they're controlling intensity, making them equal or equating them. That doesn't happen in the real world. Number 2, a cluster set is almost always employed as a novel way of training. It's almost never the way I always train. It's almost always something I just added.
This is also why, because what research says, if all sets, volume, intensity is all equated for, that there is no difference in body part splits versus full body workouts. But why do we advocate for full body workouts? Because nobody hits a perfect week forever for a year. Just never happens. You end up missing days. You end up skipping muscle groups, and you're behind, and now you're playing catch up.
And your 15 sets in one workout don't look like the 5 sets you did on Monday, Wednesday, Friday in a full body workout.
It's because you factor in human behavior, which is a huge piece to the puzzle.
It's the biggest piece.
So that's I mean, I always get fired up when people hang on to studies like this and they try and use that to support. I mean, to me, it's always an example of somebody who's a new young trainer who's just all excited to learn all this.
Buried in books, and they're not out there doing it.
Yes. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Do you want to improve your squat without injuries? Do you want to have a stronger squat? Do you want to have a deeper squat? We have a free How to Squat Like a Pro guide. It's totally free, and you can get it right now. In it, we describe details, exercises, techniques, and ways you can improve your squat so that you start to squat like a pro. You can get it for free right now if you click on the link in the description below.
Speaking of that, I want to shout out, we haven't shouted out somebody in a long time, so we'll call this kind of a shout out. Maybe our editing team can put this clip up. I shared it with you guys. I don't know if you watched it or not. Came across a trainer. I'm familiar with him before. I've seen him before, and I'm so glad he popped to my feed again because I like his stuff. I invited him on the show. He'll be coming on probably soon. Ben Bruno.
Oh, yeah.
He did a really good post of talking about like social media.
Just for 10 seconds in, I'm like, oh, he's trained a lot of people.
Yeah. I'll give it to the editing team so they can play that clip because I'll probably tear it up if I try and repeat exactly how he said it. But
no, very well said.
Very well said.
Smart.
About what we're
good page to follow.
If I had to sum up the online fitness world in one sentence, I would say that it's a bunch of young, super in shape people who've barely trained anyone in real life but call themselves trainers, pumping out tons of beautifully produced videos about new and cool training methods that have never been tested on anyone but themselves, but they use their own bodies as social proof that they know what they're talking about and badmouth the time-tested training methods of the real trainers because the way that social media is, controversy and novelty gets clicks. And then from those clicks, they amass these big followings, which understandably leads the general public to believe that these people know what they're talking about and gives them credibility. Meanwhile, the real trainers are too busy training people and changing lives to consistently share online. And when they do, they tend to not be so tech savvy and don't want to spend the time to learn the ways of the internet. So they don't get much traction, get bitter, and then just stop sharing the real stuff that works. And the cycle continues. How'd I do?
To summarize it, it's just that we've got into this trap of clickbait. And that's why this came up right now. Is what you're talking about is like, to be controversial and to counter stuff like that is what goes more viral. And if I do something that's controversial, say a controversial statement, and then you come to my page and then they're all pictures of me looking sexy, like I quickly can grow to be this massive trainer online. And so it gives credibility to these people that really don't belong.
You have
there.
a lot of followers, so you must know what they're talking about.
Exactly. He looks fit. He's dropping this, counter this, and then he must. But meanwhile, the really, really good trainers are busy out applying science that we've known for a really long time that hasn't evolved and changed. That we know, and getting experience and helping people. Not very good at hacking algorithms and getting clickbait and stuff like that. And so I was like, it's such a true statement. I mean, I bet there is more good trainers that people don't know about,
of course,
than good trainers that you know about.
I know. That's why we're always looking for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give them a spotlight for a bit.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought them up.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, you want to talk about how fat I am now?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? What's crazy is your ability to predict just numbers in general it's so great. So you guessed my body fat at a certain percentage. So I brought calipers. So I'm like, there's no way that's my body fat percent. And you were like within point two.
Yeah, because I didn't just guess a number, like a round number. I was like, you're 7.8 to 8.5.
Yeah, I thought for sure I was 10. I didn't think because I'm heavy right now. So I'm like, there's no way I'm that lean. But you were right. He tested me. Justin did, and it was like, what was it, 7.5? So it was right there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that because I know you thought you're like, oh, I'm not, I'm thick right now, or I'm not as lean. I've been leaner. You've probably felt leaner, but you have so much more muscle.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And that plays another role. And like, so I know when you got that much muscle, and I've seen your physique enough times and known when you're at 9% and 10% that I'm like, I bet he's leaner than what he thinks just based off that alone. And yeah, sure as shit. I mean, and you're in such a cool place too. Like, when's the last time you tracked and seen your calories? Do you have any idea?
So much food, bro.
He's like, when Sal's cold, he's like 8.5.
I eat a lot. I eat a lot.
I know you
I don't eat garbage, but I do eat a lot.
Well, that's why you're so ripped and shredded. It's because you're eating a lot and you're eating good food. So it's a good example.
And my wife is really good about like cooking and preparing my meals for me and all that. And, shout out to my wife. She does, it really makes a big difference. Eating out definitely would make it more challenging. But I'm not trying. That's the crazy thing. I'm not really trying. So and it's because my metabolism is so high.
Yeah, for sure.
You have like an unbelievable discipline around but I mean, you've also talked about it. Like your gut has forced you
for sure
into that place. You know
what happens?
How is that, by the way?
And
it used to be real bad, and you haven't even mentioned your gut in a long time.
It's you know what
you have moments where I see you testing it with stuff that I'm
stupid. Yeah, because I push it. The difference between my good gut health and bad gut health for me is about 8 pounds of lean body mass. That's how big of a difference it makes. It's like 8 pounds. And right now my gut health is good. So, and I'm not going to mess with it. I'm not going to push it. Because there was a moment there where it got really good. Remember I got cocky. And I was like, I was eating a cheasburger.
You were.
I could eat dairy again here. And then threw it way off. I had to back way out of it.
Now, when that happens, how long till it resets and kind of goes back? Like
it took me probably 2 or 3 weeks.
And do you have like a protocol of all the things I know you always take the but take a seed and stuff like that. Is there anything that when that happens, do you like?
I just have to really, really stay away from foods that I know can cause intolerances. And if it gets really bad, I even have to be careful with starch. So potatoes and even rice I have to be careful with.
I was going to ask you, like Vicky actually mentioned this to me before. I told you guys I've always had a problem grinding my teeth.
Yeah.
And it's just like this weird thing that's like it feels like it's out of my control. She's like, she had heard that there's a lot of associations with parasites and people that grind their teeth. And I was like,
really?
I got to get on
Justin,
top of that.
You can buy, I'm not going to say the site because I don't know how we get in trouble for this, but you can buy an ivermectin fenbendazole combo and you can buy it online. And that
horse grade?
And that, no, it's in capsule form.
He needs horse grade.
Doug knows because him and I bought some. You can buy it and it'll kill any parasite. By the way, there are some people that recommend, I'm not saying this is not me, it's not Mind Pump, but some people who recommend that you should do some kind of a parasite cleanse once a year.
If it's based off of they say if you eat sushi, how many times it's almost guaranteed,
If you eat sushi often, you probably have.
I heard it's like 80% of the population walk around with like parasites.
At one point, I don't know what the data is.
Crazy stat.
I don't know what that number is, but if you eat raw vegetables which you eat salads and stuff like that, if you sexual contact, you can definitely pass parasites. So if your spouse has a parasite, you have a parasite, and the sushi. And so if you've never done a parasite treatment and you're, 30 years old, 40 years old, whatever, the odds are you might.
You probably collected something.
Yeah, dude. And then when you treat a parasite, here's what's crazy. You treat it, you'll take something, it'll kill the parasite. Then you have to wait like 2 weeks and then do it again because the eggs are there.
Oh.
So you'll kill off the parasite and then 2 weeks later the eggs will hatch and you got to do it again. You got to treat it again.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just so mad.
You're making a face like that's so gross.
It is.
It is
gross.
gross.
It sounds so
Eggs?
disgusting,
Ugh.
dude.
Yeah, dude.
So gross, dude.
Yeah, bro.
I mean, I probably should too, just to see. You know,
You
it'd
for
be
sure have
interesting.
parasites, man.
We know
They
what
make you
do.
grouchy.
We know what your weekends consist of.
Yeah. I know what you've eaten. Yeah. That's so gross. Would you pull it up there, Doug?
Yeah, an estimated 60 million people in the U.S. are chronically infected with parasites.
Well, that's chronically.
Chronically?
That's just chronically.
That's chronically.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of people, though.
Yeah, dude.
Damn.
So out of 350, right? So what is that?
Like 320.
So what
330.
percentage is that? Do the math, Adam.
I mean, it's like 1/5.
1/5.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh,
Still,
wow.
that's a lot.
That's
Yeah,
pretty. That's
come
a
on.
decent percentage.
Yeah, 1 out of
That's
5.
a
I
big
mean,
swath of
there's 5 of us
population.
in here right now, so one of us definitely has it.
One of you. Is it?
Yeah, you're full of parasites.
I believe it, dude.
But I'll show you where you can
I
buy
am
it.
Legion.
I won't recommend it here because you're not supposed to. Whatever. But yeah, those are what are the common ones there, Doug?
Oh, boy. I mean, there's hookworm. I can't even tell you what these are. They have funny
tapeworm.
names.
Was that the one that lowers your
Tricholomus
IQ? Like
vaginalis? What
in the
what's some
South, they
crazy
had.
names.
Yeah. Oh, Trichomonas vaginalis.
Justin has
good?
that.
I definitely have that
Justin
one.
definitely has
It's
that
an
one.
STI.
I think I ate that one. Yeah.
That's disgusting. Dude, did I tell you guys? I didn't tell you my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter. She comes up to me. She walks up to me with her finger like this, and she just like from across the room, Papa,
Smell this.
Papa. And I'm like, what? She goes, booger. I'm like, oh, come on. Had to like clean her finger.
Bro, did I ever
She's
tell you
done it
guys?
like twice now.
This is
Booger.
this is something we have to like untrain. You know when you train your kid to do something and then like it eventually like starts to backfire. So we trained Max like to when to blow his nose, like blow hard, right?
Oh.
So we would teach him to do it. So now anytime he gets a runny nose, he just starts blowing. He has no tissue, no nothing.
Just blows
Yeah,
it
just starts blowing. And like you're like sprinting across the room to get Max, hold
It's
on.
all hanging on.
Yes, but I know it's our fault because we teach him blow, if you got to blow, and then we keep telling him that. So now it's like as soon as he feels it, he just starts doing it.
What's
Yeah.
what's the worst for you guys?
Gonna do the farmer.
as a parent, you have to deal with poop, boogers, and throw up and pee. Right? Those are the 4. What's the grossest out of all those?
that's a
Because
good que-
every parent's different.
Yeah.
You know, like my wife, if she gets poop anywhere, it's like, oh, poop doesn't bother me. I
You
don't
know
care
what's
about poop.
funny is I
But boogers and mucus, you get me out of the room.
Yeah.
Dude. I can't handle that.
I feel like since having my
Mucus is
son,
disgusting.
a lot of that has kind of changed, right? Like I do remember like the boogers thing being really tough for me, but I definitely know as a dad now, I'm like so normal, just I'm grabbing it with my
Oh, no, I can't do that with boogers,
my bare
bro.
hands.
I can't do that.
Throw it, like,
Puke
I
is close second.
I wouldn't been able to do that say 5 years ago.
Look at Justice's
but
face.
I definitely have gotten that point with my son now where I'm like, it's so natural.
Bro,
for
you
me
played
to do
football where you guys would blow snot rockets
Oh,
everywhere.
I do all the time. Yeah. I mean, I have some gross stories. I'm not
yeah.
gonna bring up. But yeah, like, yeah. There's I don't know. For me, like there was one big blowout though. I could definitely remember like Everett had that when he was in his crib, and it was just like it was over the walls. It was like all like, and I was just walking into it, and you're just hit in the face with the smell. And it was like, whoa! And I was by myself because at that time there was a good period where my wife was working nights as a nurse, and so I was like daddy daycare every day.
Yeah, I imagine you and Doug probably had a little bit different transition. So Sal and I are oldest, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you did too, right? You probably got a little bit of practice on your younger siblings
Yeah.
with being around them.
yeah.
So I would like changing diapers and all that stuff was not foreign to me. But when you're like you're the youngest son and boy, and you guys don't have anybody, was it all brand new to you? Yeah.
Yeah, it was all brand new.
Do you remember, like, were you like some dad really nervous to like even hold a baby, really nervous to change a diaper?
I take that back because so I used to work at camps a lot, and I was like a camp counselor, and I did like day camps and things like that through these churches. And you know, like I was working with younger kids, and too, I was only like 10, 12 years old or something like that. And so I sometimes like one of the girls was like, can you come help me? And I need another set of hands to hold. And I'm like, oh God, like holding this like dirty diaper. And so I did have like some exposure to it, but not like I didn't have like a younger sibling or anything. So yeah, I was pretty much just like horribly trying to figure it out.
When you're,
I had a buddy that was like terrified of it. Like, I remember, yeah, because he's the youngest, all boys,
especially if you're a guy, because
yeah,
you're younger.
No, it's pretty common.
You're not encouraged.
Yeah,
it was. You're like, I know you're the same way, Adam. It was a superpower for me with clients who had babies, because here I am, young man trainer, and they'd have, they postpartum. Sometimes client would bring their baby in, and I was so comfortable with their baby. Their baby would, pee on me. I wouldn't trip out over it. And I'm a guy, so they don't expect me to be like super chill. So it was always like, oh my God, he's the greatest or whatever. I love that.
It's funny. Some of my favorite memories though, because like my niece, when I went to the hospital to meet, and she was just born, and my brother handed her to me. I'm like, oh, sweetie, and then she just like pukes all over me, and I'll forever remember that. I'm gonna, tell her that at her
Infant
wedding.
puke is nothing though. Infant puke is just.
But it almost went in my mouth. It was like, it was bad.
I'm pretty sure I won over Katrina. That was probably I've talked about how
play with babies and kids.
No. How her brothers, like, I swear they didn't like me forever, right? And I think when we had Max, and then her family getting to see me with Max, I think changed a lot.
You're a natural kid
for their family, because I had
you always took
raised, and he was a preemie, right? So he was super tiny, and even at that age, I was not. I mean, I'd tuck him in my forearm and be doing dishes and be doing stuff while Katrina's resting, and her family would be all looking at me all crazy, like, dude, he's so comfortable with the baby. And I'm like, well, when we were young, we had my sister, my two siblings were 10, 12 years below us, and my mom had us watching the kids at a pretty young age, so I got used to all that.
You're like
stuff.
5. Right?
Yeah. Bro, when I look back now, you know what I'm saying? I go, boy, that was pretty young. Pretty young to be responsible for a newborn.
You're like making them lunches.
Oh, dude, it's like, I think back to some of the stuff. I'm like, wait a second, I'm doing the math. You know what I'm saying? When you're in it, you don't think about it. It wasn't until like therapy later when my therapist would tell me, like, you do know that's not normal, right? You're only like 12 years old. You're watching an infant.
My 4-year-old, he'll cook his own scrambled egg. We'll watch him.
I saw the video yesterday.
Yeah, so he'll turn on the stove.
So great.
He'll crack the egg.
I seen him use a knife, everything. You guys got him doing all kinds of cool stuff.
Jessica will give him a butter knife to slice like zucchini and stuff, and he'll do everything on his own. He'll olive oil it, salt it, do the whole thing, all on his own, which is pretty cool. When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to touch any of that stuff.
So I'm assuming, is Jessica better with that than you? Because I know, like, Katrina would freak out if I let him do some stuff like that. I let him do stuff, and she's just like, what?
No, I love it. I absolutely love it.
I let him plug in stuff in the plugs, or that. Katrina's like, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, he's fine. Yeah. I teach him though. I'm telling him, like, listen, your finger touches that, it'll shock you. Trust me, you don't want to do that. And so, but
you're crazy.
I trust him to do all kinds of stuff. And Katrina's like, oh yeah, not quite the power saw.
Don't put the fork in there.
I want to ask you, Justin, about Scamanda podcast.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, you got it, bro. The notes have been here forever.
You're like, what is Scamanda?
You've been itching to talk about it. And I'm like so curious.
Well, so this was a conversation my youngest actually brought to me from school, and they were kind of talking, and I guess, so I had just read this article that there's this like Netflix series coming out, totally describing this lady, Amanda, who had scammed everybody that she had cancer. And
I remember.
This is totally like a goob expose. Like you'd be all over this. But she was here. Lied? She's literally here in San Jose. And was like doing this at a local church, and was getting all these donations because she was claiming that she was going through treatments and all this kind of stuff.
That's terrible,
dude. I was like, you want to talk about what's evil? That's evil.
Well, that's way
super evil, dude. And so I'm like, there's this whole podcast like dedicated to it, and apparently Everett's one of his buddies. Like that was his. She like worked at a school, and that was like. He went to that school, knew her intimately.
There's a Netflix series about it, isn't there?
Yeah, it's coming out.
Yeah, I saw the preview for it. It's not out though, is it?
So she lied about having cancer so she could collect donations.
So she could get money.
That's sociopathic, dude.
It's so wrong.
That's so messed up. It's messed up for people who have cancer. You know what I mean?
I feel like though people that do stuff, karma bites bites you in the ass, bro. There's not a lot of people that get away with that stuff. You get away with it temporarily, but that comes around, bro.
Well, I mean, whether you believe that or not, how spiritually, the spiritual illness she must have to be okay doing that.
Yeah.
Because you're not just robbing people, which is you're already in a bad place, but you're asking for people through empathy and compassion.
Listen, that's what I mean by
sociopath, or is it psychopath? So it's like the one that doesn't feel any morality.
That's sociopath.
Sociopath. Yeah.
That's what I mean by that too. Is like maybe, I truly believe this. Like I think it always happens. I don't think it's a maybe. It always happens. Whether something really bad happens back to her that the public will see, or she's just internally tortured for the rest of your life. Like you'll be tortured for that. And whether something bad happens to you, or you now set the table for the rest of your life, no one trusts you. You can't, or internally. So it's like it's no matter what, you're not getting away from that. You do something like that bad. Oh yeah, there it is right there.
Oh what? Yeah. I might know her.
I know, that's why I brought her up, because I was tripping out that she was local, like almost like Los Gatos
really
area.
familiar.
Yeah,
She looks really familiar.
she went to a church I've been to before, and like she was like, they brought her up on stage and she was asking for donations, and I'm like, wow, the level and extent this lady went through with this scam it's unreal.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She looks familiar. That's weird.
I know.
No, I don't know her.
Okay.
No, it was
There she is right there.
picture.
Weren't they like interviewing her afterwards too, and like trying to get her to tell, and she still was like kind of lying. Like they did a whole like 60 seconds or whatever, or 60 minutes on her, and they were trying to get her to tell the truth, and she was still like,
yeah, you don't have any moral compass. I mean, I guess that's the fallback, right? You just continue to lie.
Oh, that's sad.
when is it out? It's coming out soon, I think, on Netflix.
That's really sad.
Yeah,
that is.
That's on ABC. It looks
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna take a left here. I am seeing more and more articles on the peptide for skin called GHK-Cu. You're seeing this in really high-end skincare products that are very hard to find. Maybe, Doug, you could type in GHK-Cu studies for skin.
yeah.
Really remarkable stuff.
That's
but
what's in the Entera, right?
That's what's in Luminos by Entera, but there is 3% GHK-Cu. You don't find
That's
3%.
pretty high, yeah.
It's very high. The highest you'll find anywhere is 0.5, 1 if you're lucky. They're 3%.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So does
incredible.
Katrina.
Yeah, Doug, read that real quick.
Yeah, studies on GHK-Cu for skin have shown promising results, indicating its potential to significantly improve the appearance of aging skin by reducing the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, increasing skin density and thickness, and promoting collagen production through its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties.
Yeah. So
You think there's like uber rich people that just bathe in it? I would. If I could afford a whole bathtub of that stuff.
oh my God.
Yeah, right?
$10 million worth of
I mean,
Maybe that's LeBron's secret.
I mean, there's got to be somebody wealthy enough that can bathe in it. You can't tell me someone hasn't tried to do
You're
that.
probably right.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
I hope it's that. It's not, the
So
darker
GHK-Cu is so powerful, okay, that if you get a sunburn, so I know somebody who did this. They got a sunburn. They applied this on the sunburn.
We should have Justin test this.
You would be perfect.
Yeah.
Because
Come summer.
You get
Tell
sunburn.
them their commercial comes summertime.
He has to wear sunscreen inside.
We're gonna burn Justin really
Just when I
bad.
get that horrible farmer tan on my neck, dude. It's like my face and my neck. I take my
Come on, it
shirt
would be
off.
such
It's
a
like,
funny experiment. Having like so he's like his face is all red with the sunglasses.
No, to do a proper
the
test.
NASCAR tan.
To do a proper test.
burn the shit out of him.
No, this is what we'll do.
What?
Justin will go out in the sun, get a sunburn on his face. We'll only apply
On one
Luminos on
side?
half of his face, so we can see the difference between half of your face.
Well, we got to do a cool design or something.
Yeah, dude, I was just thinking- So I know somebody who did this. They got sunburn, and it was not a good sunburn. It was a pretty bad sunburn. And they put it on, and the next day, the sunburn was gone.
Wow.
Like the next day, it was gone. And
Yeah,
then,
okay,
and then-
I'm definitely doing
And then
that.
who was it that we know that we were
for
on
sure
a
I'm
virtual
getting
call
sunburned.
with that talked about this?
Who was that?
It was one of the representatives from Entera.
It
if I'm not
was.
mistaken.
I remember talking about that.
Yeah.
It was Nick, wasn't it?
I think
Nick?
it was.
It was Nick because
Yes.
he's got skin like Justin.
He's,
Yeah.
He's super
exactly.
pale like
Has
Justin.
the same last name too, basically.
He's a Scottish guy. Yeah.
Is he Andrews?
Andrew.
A couple albino
OS.
buddies, huh?
Paleo Valley makes the best meat sticks anywhere. Grass-fed, delicious, not dry. They're great. Go check them out. It's a great gut health friendly, clean protein snack on the go. Go to paleovalley.com/mind pump. On that link, you'll get 15% off. All right, back to the show. This segment of the podcast is brought to you by trainerwebinar.com. Adam and I get on every other month and teach trainers and coaches how to be more effective and successful, and it's free, trainerwebinar.com.
Our first caller is Ron from Rhode Island.
Ron, what's up, man?
What's happening, Ron?
How can we help you?
Hey, how you doing, Sal? Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it. I work out from home at my home gym, so I really don't have anybody to kind of talk to and bounce my ideas off. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it.
So yeah, basically, just a little history real quick. I'm I'm 54, 5'6", 165 pounds. Been working out on and off, God, since my mid 20s after I got out of the service. Really kind of got back into it the last 6 years or so, and been very consistent the past year and a half. It's just I do like I work out 5 days a week, three days with weights, 2 days the abs, a little bit forearm or routine there. It just seems like it'll take a little too long. I'm about 2 hours in each day, which I mean I got nothing else to do, so it doesn't really bother me. But it's just at times it kind of gets tough to get motivated when you've got 2 hours of work ahead of you. And at times I just feel like I'm spinning my wheels here. I had a couple DEXA scans, came in about 19% body fat. But in a 9-month period, I gained about 5 pounds of muscle, which is about half a pound per month, which I don't know if that's good or bad for a guy my age or not. Had a couple of testosterone tests. I came in at 687 and with the total, and free at 91. I did one previous about 2 years prior, and I actually increased my testosterone by like 34 points. I don't know if that means anything or not, but any advice you have would be appreciated.
Yeah. On the surface, if somebody said I strength train 2 hours, 5 days a week, is that too much? Generally speaking, I would say yes. Here's the problem with that. On an individual basis, I mean, it could really vary. You've been strength training for a long time. So what I would typically ask you is, why are you asking this question? Now, you kind of told me a little bit in your question. You said you're finding it hard to get motivated, and you're sometimes feeling like you're spinning your wheels. So I think a better question to ask would be, would I get the same results if I worked out less, or would I get better results if I worked out less? Probably. You probably, if you cut it down to an hour, I don't think you'd see any slowdown in progress. I mean, 5 pounds of muscle in a year is pretty damn good. You're doing pretty well. So if you cut it down to an hour, I don't think you would see a reduction in progress. You might actually see yourself progressing more, but really the only way to know that is to test it out and see for yourself.
Yeah, I would love to put you on MAPS Anabolic. The 2 days that you were kind of doing abs and form, you could still do that as your trigger days. So in MAPS Anabolic, we've got the 3 days a week plus 2 days are trigger sessions. And so you could follow that protocol, still do your kind of going to the gym or going in your garage, working out 5 days a week. But it's a little more organized. It's probably going to be, well, not probably, it is less volume than what I'm looking at right now with your program. So I mean, I would love to let you follow that for 3 months and see what happens. And I bet you get as good of results, if not better, with about half the work.
I just feel like if I missed out, like I do the main primary compounds, squat, bench, overhead, and then I do some isolation. I just feel like those isolation is so important that I wouldn't want to kind of get rid of them. I just don't know where, that's why I asked, am I doing too many? I'll do one main compound, and then I'll add another isolation to kind of help with some secondary stuff. I kind of like the routine I have, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, if you really, because you're progressing, your testosterone's good, you're building muscle.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're necessarily overtraining. I mean, if you're noticing like insomnia, excessive soreness and stiffness, if your progress is going backwards, then you're probably overdoing it. But if you're slowly progressing, you feel good, you're probably okay. But so the real question is, can I do less and get the same results? If what you said was something you're really feeling, which is sometimes I don't want to work out for 2 hours. In other words, you don't want to work out for 2 hours. You probably don't have to. But are you overtraining? I'm not sure. I don't think so, because you have been progressing.
I saw something in there about your rest periods, and you're worried you're resting a bit too long. Like, so is that what's extending it to 2 hours? Or like, because I don't have a problem with you resting a long time. I think that's great, especially if you're focused on building strength. In the compound lifts, if you're just focused on that and doing long rest periods in between, you should be, gaining quite a bit of strength with that. But is that what's trying to squeeze everything in with long rest periods?
Well, I experimented with that. Justin. I actually cut it down to 1.5 minutes, and then in the grand scheme of things, it really only cut like 10 minutes out of the total time. So, and it's not like I'm rushed for time. That's not the thing. It's just, it's just kind of like, it's almost like a second job at times where, okay, now I know I got 2 hours to go out in my basement now to work out, which, that working out is my passion. That's pretty much my main hobby. It's all I do really. So it's not bad, but there are days, especially on a Friday, when I know I got 2 hours, when I kind of just want to relax after I get home from work. It can kind of be, a little demotivating at times. Yeah, and then, like I said, as far as spinning my wheels, like, I'm just not seeing like the huge gains. All this time I'm putting in, I kind of would have expected a little bit more from this. I'm kind of in a bulking phase right now, and it all kind of went to my gut. So I'm like, that's a little disheartening there too.
Well, yeah. That's just it. Like, I think Sal said it well, which is I don't think you're necessarily overtraining, and I don't necessarily think you have to change this, but I think you could. I think you could do something like MAPS Anabolic, which is about half the volume, and I think you would see as good, maybe even better results. But so it really comes down to you and what you want to do. If you really enjoy these long 2-hour workouts and you feel good and fine, you're seeing results. I mean, at your age, how long you've been training, putting on 5-6 pounds like that in the time frame you did is not bad.
No, you're moving forward.
But it could be better. And always remember too, what you can tolerate isn't necessarily what's optimal. So even though your body can handle the 2-hour workout and all the exercise you're doing, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the most optimal amount of volume for your body. So that, and sometimes that's hard to gauge because you're like, I feel fine. I'm doing it. I'm not too sore. I'm still recovering. I'm still seeing results. And so but it is a lot. And maybe if I were to cut back a little bit, would I see more? And so I think a good experiment would be, let Doug send you MAPS Anabolic, run it for a while, follow it as
hurt just trying it out.
Yeah. Follow it the way it's laid out. You could still go into the gym 5 days a week like you are. The days that you were kind of doing abs and stuff, you can keep doing that with your trigger sessions and see how your body responds and see if you enjoy it. And it should take you about half the time.
The thing too, Ron, that just from what I'm hearing from what you're saying, if this is something you want to be able to do for the rest of your life, right? You want to exercise, you want to stay mobile and strong and independent for the rest of your life. The most important thing to consider in the entire context of this is the relationship that you have with exercise. Okay, so if you're finding yourself getting to the point where you're not liking it and it's drudgery, and I'm 2 hours, I don't know if I want to do this. Forget the risk of gains. The risk is you're going to start hating this, and then you're not going to do it anymore. So let's just look worst case scenario. You cut your workouts down to an hour. You sacrifice a pound of muscle a year, but your relationship to exercise stays strong. That's better. That's a better trade-off. So consider that as well. So another thing to consider too, I mean, I would love for you to try MAPS Anabolic, but here's another thing.
Change the stimulus.
Here's another thing. You're going to go into your garage gym, your basement gym. You're like, oh my God, I got to do 2 hours. There's nothing wrong with going, I'm going to do 30 minutes today because I'm going to protect the relationship I have with exercise. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And I would bet my house that you wouldn't lose any gains from doing that occasionally.
It doesn't need to be an all or nothing situation.
That's right.
Yeah. Am I chasing ghosts at my age? I mean, is it still possible for me to get, somewhat jacked here? I mean,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Look at Doug. Doug's 75 years old, and look at how good he looks.
Yeah,
he's like, almost 60.
He's 20.
He's almost 60.
Yeah.
Now the MAPS Anabolic, again, I work from home, so I mean, I don't know if
it's fine.
I don't have access to certain machines and all that. You know what I mean?
You're
you're perfectly fine.
You're fine. We're gonna send it to you, Ron.
You got a barbell and dumbbell, and a squat rack, bench. You're good.
Yeah. Doug's gonna send it over to you, and then I'd love for you to stick to it. Yeah, I'd love for you to stick to it, and then just circle back with us. Reach back out after you've done that, and let us know what you noticed. And like Sal said, I do agree. Like the important part of this is the relationship. Regardless of because what you're doing is working. You can keep doing that. But what I think we all keep hearing from you is like, man, 2 hours can be daunting sometimes.
Drudgery a bit.
Then don't do it.
Yeah. So don't do that much, and let's see what happens.
I mean, is that average though? Or I mean, what's the average time usually?
45 minutes to an hour.
It's an hour.
I mean, my workouts are like 20 minutes right now.
Yeah.
You could when you've been lifting for a really long time, you'd be surprised how little stimulus you need to maintain the muscle that you
efficiency
have.
at this point.
Here's look. I've had 2-hour workouts, but the reason why I've had 2-hour workouts is I had long rest periods, and I was going really heavy. So it's not like 2 hours of double the volume. It's typically
Exactly.
2 hours of the same volume. I'm just taking really long rest periods, doing a little bit of mobility in between, stretching, foam roll, whatever. And so, when I train more powerlifting style, sometimes my workouts are an hour and a half or 2 hours, but it's not because I'm doing tons and tons of work.
Same.
But those shorter workouts, you're still able to hit all the main.
Absolutely.
Those compound lifts really cover a lot. So you're including those. You're pretty good. Honestly, I think, less is more for you. And you're doing the rest periods and everything. It's you're probably just a nice little change. Yeah, you're going to notice a big difference.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. Thanks for your time.
You got it, man.
All right, Ron.
Thanks for calling in. We'll send that to you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I used to do 2-hour workouts all the time.
How many was it? 10? Was it 10 exercises? I can't see to the scroll.
I think that's all in one day.
So that's typical workout.
So that is. Let's see here. He's got 3 on the compound lifts and 2 on the isolation. He's not crazy overdoing it.
No, but it's 1, 2, 3. I mean, count the sets there, Doug.
When he's doing
3
squats,
it's about 25
in one workout.
Yeah, 25 sets in one workout.
You could switch that out.
Well, what he doesn't need to do that he's doing a compound lift and then an isolation of every muscle.
Yeah. You don't need to.
No. He could just
all compound lifts.
And he can also one workout do more isolation. One workout.
That's right. We could have taken this thing and split it. But I mean, Maps Anabolic is just a better version of what he's trying to do.
Yeah,
totally.
So hopefully he follows that. Doesn't have to train for that long and then sees as good or better.
These are all great exercises.
But like I said, I've done 2-hour workouts, but it wasn't because I was doing a ton of volume. It was because I sat on the bench and rested for 5 to 6 minutes.
Crank the intensity up. It's way better to up your rest periods. You're going to have a lot better.
Well, I mean, I feel like ideally for that, because I agree too, and I'm sure there's times where he likes it to ours, you build a program that should only take 45, 50 minutes, but then there's times when you drag it out for 2 hours because you're going to go extra heavy and rest, and you got all the time. So, but you don't want to build a program that takes 2 hours of movement.
You also don't want to follow
every time
a routine that you start to hate because then you'll stop at some point.
Yeah.
Our next caller is Andrea from California.
Hi. How can we help you?
Good morning.
Hi, thanks for having me. My question, well, first of all, I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach and all those things, but the question, I wrote it down. I always can get to my goal weight, and I'm probably 5 to 10 pounds away right now, but every time I get to my goal weight, it always comes back, even if I'm still eating the same, haven't changed anything. And I was just saying, since you guys are always talking about muscle memory, I was just wondering if you guys thought there was maybe fat memory, and that's why it's so easy to gain the weight back all the time.
What a great question.
Yeah.
What a great question.
Metabolically adapted is more the case.
Yeah. Not like muscle memory. I mean, with muscle memory, we actually have observed epigenetic changes that make the adaptation the second or third time around much, much easier. Now, with body fat, what can happen?
Your fat cells grow.
Fat cells grow and shrink, and you really only add the number of fat cells to your body. As a woman during puberty, 3rd trimester of pregnancy, and for both men and women, it's suggested, and there's some studies that actually show this probably happens, where if you gain body fat rapidly, that
changes
that you might add fat cells to your body. Adding fat cells would make gaining body fat
I thought that was a known fact. There's a
little debate, but yeah, I think this happens.
I totally think this happens. You see this very
competitors, right?
Yes, with bodybuilders, because they put on the weight so fast, and then every time they do the next show, they follow the exact same protocol, but then this time they can't get quite as lean. And the prevailing theory on that is because every time you rapidly gain weight, you end up adding fat cells, and they don't go away; they just shrink. So if you think every time you've kind of yo-yo dieted in your life, where you put on body fat, especially if it came on relatively quick, what ends up happening is your body adds more fat cells than it had before that, and they don't go away; they just shrink. And so if you can, over years or decades, have always lost weight, gained weight, lost weight, gained weight, then every time you go back to gaining weight, many times you're probably adding fat cells, which makes it that much more difficult to lose it, and it's that much easier to get it back because it just grows.
Now the key with that is the weight gain would be rapid, and the theory is that the body tries to find a way to capture the extra energy more effectively because of the rapid fat gain, and so then it adds fat cells. Your fat can change itself to being more or less metabolically active. You've heard of brown fat, white fat. Like cold temperature can make fat more, thermogenic or metabolically active. Healthy people versus unhealthy people, you tend to see this as well. So that may also play some kind of a role. And I heard people, I've heard people talk about like a set point, body weight set point type of deal. I think that genetically speaking, there's probably a range that your body wants to stay within. I don't think it's obese. I don't think it's super ripped. It's kind of somewhere in this kind of like, healthy middle. But it's hard to separate that from our behaviors as well. Behaviors also tend to take a set point, right? Like if you grow up your entire life eating, with really no regard, developing a relationship with food that isn't, loosely put, it's not healthy. And then you change your life and you try to pursue a healthy lifestyle, and it's 2 years into this, like you've lived a long time in a particular way. And so that's a difficult chain to break, I guess. So it's hard to separate it, right? To see what's going on. But in terms of like how muscle memory works, no, not the same.
It's different, but I think
there's something to it though.
There's also the variable too of if you have to cut calories really, really aggressively to lose that body fat, and that calorie number keeps getting lower and lower, it just makes it that much easier when you dip out of it in the surplus to add it back really fast. For example, if you can lose those 5 or 10 pounds, but you have to go down to say 1,300 calories every single time you do that. Well, when you're only eating like 1,300 calories, you make a little 300 calorie mistake and it's a big portion of your daily intake, right? Which your body can handle versus if we reverse dieted, then we slowly leaned you out and you lost your 5 pounds, but your body's at like say 2,400 calories. And then you go up 200 calories. It's not as significant of a percentage as the person who's only eating 1,300. So that plays a role also, depending on how low of calories you have to go to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
I feel better.
Are you
cool.
are you following any of the MAPS programs right now?
I have anabolic and aesthetic, but I'm not currently doing one.
Okay.
Oh, cool. You want to follow one of our other programs like Powerlift or Muscle Mommy?
I would love to do power lift.
Let's send it.
Oh yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's get you
Awesome.
there. Yeah. Great program.
You got it. Thanks for calling in.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Every time we travel, Adam feeds me ice cream, triggers my fat memory.
Fat memory?
Every time.
When you remember being fat?
Yeah.
If you think of the body as an adaptation machine, and let's say, I'm just going to create a scenario, not a realistic one, but let's just for argument's sake, let's say you lose 50 pounds of body fat and then you gain it back, and you do this every 2 years, right? At a certain point, your body is probably like, this is going to happen again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to capture more calories. I'm going to prepare for the starvation. I'm going to make this, easier to survive, and make this less stressful on myself. And so your body probably would get better at holding on to those calories. And again, metabolism, fat storage, where your body sends energy. It's, we understand a lot of it, but there's a lot we don't understand. And there's this huge gap between what we know and what we don't know. It's so complex that at this point, all we could do is base some of this off of our own experience and anecdote.
Yeah, general practices.
And look, and again, you can make the argument it's biological, it's emotional or psychological. As a trainer or coach, I don't care. All I know is you could try separating it all you want, but what I know is when somebody loses and gains weight, loses and gains weight, loses and gains weight, it gets harder and harder each time. So whether that's just biological, just psychological, all of the above, whatever, it does make it more challenging.
I didn't know that that was just a theory. I thought it was a fact. I thought we knew that if you put on,
it's been observed, but I think you probably need to keep seeing it before you can make it like a fact.
I mean, is it?
I agree with it. I think
Yeah,
that's what
I mean, I
happens.
feel like that's what I've seen with clients
Exactly.
in the bodybuilding world, myself
Exactly.
personally. I mean, so I thought when the studies came out,
they're good studies on it.
Yeah,
It's just
I guess what constitutes fast
Yeah.
is probably where that gray area
it is,
right?
and it's also like it counters long held beliefs in how we add fat cells. So forever we've been taught you don't add fat cells.
It
to your
seems
body.
like a natural advantage for surviving,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
it seems like the body would want to do that.
Of course, that's why it makes sense, and we've seen stuff like that. So I would say, based on the studies and our experience, I'm sure it happens. We have a special in February. MAPS, Anabolic, and the No BS six-pack formula together. These programs were actually created to be run together. Great for building muscle, boosting metabolism, burning body fat. Get them both of them, for $59.99. You can check them out at mapsfebruary.com. All right, back to the show.
Next caller is Kyle from New Hampshire.
Hey, Kyle.
What's going on,
What's up,
Kyle?
Hey, how you doing?
How can we help you?
So, let me find my question again. I listen to you guys a lot. A lot of your advice helps me very much, but I am 6'1" and over 390 pounds. And I notice a lot of your advice and advice that I hear online everywhere tends to be more towards aimed at people looking to cut maybe 10 to 25 pounds or to bulk up a little bit. I was wondering what advice you would give to somebody who has as much as 200 pounds to lose, like I do, because like reverse dieting, eat more to lose more. It's kind of hard to do that when somebody ate their way to almost 400 pounds. I'm running a 3-day full body routine that I like a bit, that I built myself. And I used to power lift a lot. I had a 330 pound bench, 370 squat, and 435 deadlift. But I'm starting to get joint pain if I try to lift like that again. So I'm just wondering what your advice would be for somebody who has a lot to lose instead of just like a little bit and trying to get in shape. Somebody who wants to actually like completely change their life.
I love this question because it gives us an opportunity to address this, and it's not true.
Yeah.
Psychologically, it can be much more difficult because let me tell you, when you sit across from somebody who has that much to lose and you tell them, hey, I want you to add these things into your diet, they absolutely would look at me like I was crazy and be like, do you not see where I'm at and how I got here? I eat too much, but it's too much of the wrong foods, and there's things that we need to go after and start targeting. And so much of the advice is actually very similar in the fact that I want you to start focusing on eating whole foods. We're going to go hit your protein target in your goal weight, right? So whatever your goal weight is of you want to be, say that's 250 pounds or 230 or something. We go, okay, well, we're going to go after 230 grams of protein every day through whole foods. And that would be like step one. And that step one would be the same for you or the person who's probably trying to lose 20 pounds. Because we first have to feed your body what it needs and make sure we get you in a metabolically healthy place first before I just start cutting you. If I take you where you're currently at and just start cutting, it might lose a few pounds initially, but eventually you'll hit a plateau going that route, and you'd be far better off hitting those protein intakes, lifting weights to get strong, and building metabolism to where your metabolism is roaring before we start to come back down the other direction. So it's very similar, longer, obviously, the process when I have a client that's got to lose over 100 pounds. It's a longer process of reverse dieting and takes some time, but very, very similar advice still.
Yeah, Kyle, I appreciate you calling in and being so open and vulnerable. I think that's great.
Thank you.
The key here with what Adam's saying is prioritize the protein first from whole natural foods. So what we're not saying is eat like you currently eat and add the protein on top of it. Not necessarily. What we're saying is with every meal, start with
it.
protein and stick to only whole natural foods. If you just do those two things, you don't have to do anything else. That's a big step that will actually take you.
It's going to taper down your calories naturally.
It'll take you pretty damn far.
Yeah.
It'll take you pretty far before you have to make any other changes. Here's the challenge, the big challenge with, and I've worked with a lot of clients who've had to lose over 100 pounds, okay? A significant amount in the 20 plus years that I've trained people. There's two big challenges. They're actually the same challenges that other people have, but they're more challenging because it's a little bit more complex. Number one is you just have a longer road to get to your, quote unquote goal.
Yeah.
It just takes longer to lose 100 pounds than it does to lose 20 pounds. Okay. So you just kind of stay on that a little longer. And number two, your relationship with food and exercise is more complex. Okay. It's just more complex. So someone may reach the point that you've reached when they're 30 pounds overweight, but for you, it took a lot longer because the relationship with food is a little bit more complex. So you probably have a relationship with food where you find yourself eating in binge, or you find yourself eating for reasons other than hunger, whether it's comfort, hedonism, stress, whatever. As a result, your hunger signals are a little mismatched. And so what you feel or identify as satisfaction or full or whatever is far off from what would be considered healthy. And that's okay. You can rebuild and change your relationship with those things. So for someone like you, like I'll ask you this question, Kyle. If this is something that you're very serious about, now that doesn't mean, when I ask people that, they think that means I'm not going to mess up. I'm going to do everything perfect. No, it literally means like, is this important to you? If it is, I'm going to be very honest with you, Kyle. Nothing is going to guarantee your success as much as working with a coach through this whole process. Okay. The best possible investment you can make for this, I mean, we're going to give you some advice now. That's great. You can listen to the podcast. That's phenomenal. You can try doing it on your own. That's great as well. But your success rate will triple or quadruple if you have somebody that you're working with on a weekly basis, virtually even. Doesn't even have to be in person. In person would be great, but virtually, I think that would be. And what'll happen with this person is as you're going through this process, you're going to hit those stumbling blocks, those challenges. You're going to get on with them, and they're going to be able to coach you through and guide you through that process. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to backslide 100%. Just accept the fact that that happens. We're all human. Give yourself grace. But you're going to have that guide and that coach to pull you out of that hole, pull you out of that shame, to help, to give you an anchor so that you can keep somewhat moving forward, even if it means you're moving backwards sometimes, but you're kind of keeping. But so a guide or a coach, like there's nothing I can tell you on this that will come close to the success that could potentially bring you.
Kyle, are you in a place financially where you can invest in something like that?
I'm not, unfortunately.
Okay, so then the next best thing, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put you in our private forum if you're not in there already. Are you in there or no?
Nope, I'm not.
Okay, I'm gonna have Doug put you in the private forum. Okay, and then the first thing that I would do with you, which is what I would do with anybody, no matter what, is all I want you to do is track your food for a week. Don't try and impress me. Eat how you eat. Eat how you normally would eat, so I can see where our starting point is. If you update with me, okay, I'll help you. The guys and I will get in there and we'll give you subtle changes and direction. Also set you up on a program that you should follow. Do you have access to a gym or do you work out at home? Where would you work out at?
I have access to a commercial gym.
Okay, cool. So you have pretty much any equipment, everything like that.
Yep, so all kinds of stuff.
I'm gonna have Doug set you up with a program to start you on.
Okay.
So the workout, that's taken care of. And then in the forum, if you give me what you eat, okay, with either Fat Secret, MyFitnessPal, one of those. In fact, when we get off this, I'm going to have Kyle, see if I can have Kyle put you in our app so I can track you directly. So I'm going to have Kyle reach out to you, we have a Kyle too, okay? Kyle's our head trainer. So I'll have Kyle reach out to you, see if I can put you in there so that I can directly see what you're eating, and then we'll make some adjustments. And then the boys and I are going to follow along and get you going. I think the first 60 to 90 days will be the most crucial to setting this off. After I think we've been communicating with you for a while, I think you'll piece it together pretty well.
And there is no such thing as too slow a progress. Wow. There is such a thing as too fast a progress. So keep that in mind. An inch moving forward is forward. That's the key to something like this, because the big mistakes I've seen people make over and over with this is they go too far, too fast, make too many changes too quickly, and then they rebound. And so we got to do.
Still need to build, man. We need to build the muscle. We need to build the palate and build these better habits. And so this is still building in the beginning to take you even further long term. So it seems counterintuitive, but honestly, this is the best approach we've found with anybody, any size. So
Yep.
you're gonna do great with this, and it's all gonna kind of unfold if you approach it the right way.
Any limitations before I send the program to you? So I know you have any sort of issues like working out, lifting wise, injuries, anything?
Not anything specific. Being is because I try to deadlift and my belly kind of gets in the way. I've done some trap bar deadlifts, but other than that, I don't have a whole lot of issues.
Cool. Okay, those are all things that we can. I saw in your question that you've lifted pretty heavy before, so you're not.
I used to be pretty damn strong.
Okay, good. That'll be huge. That'll be a huge advantage to us that you're familiar with those movements, and we can put some weight on and get strong. So that'll actually help us a lot. So I'm gonna have Doug send you. I'll probably send a MAPS Anabolic. You think we start off with
starter? I mean, not starter. Excuse me. 15.
Oh, 15 first.
I like 15, bro.
Okay,
I love 15.
We'll go 15 first, and then we'll go into anabolic.
Yeah, I love that because you'll be in the gym every day for a little bit. So it's really just building a habit. You're only gonna be in there for 20 minutes. I'd like to see you walk for 5 to 10 minutes after breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Do you have
that's it.
Do you have a tool that will track your steps?
I have a Fitbit.
Perfect.
One of the big issues I have with it though is my job is sedentary, but I'm moving my arms a lot, so it tracks steps that I'm not taking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I haven't used it in a while.
You know what you could do, Kyle? If you're sedentary throughout the day, you could put it on your shoe. How many hours a day do you work?
Look at Doug. Doug can look this up right now. There is like literally like $1. There's pedometers for like $1 on Amazon.
On your belt.
Yeah, and they just clip onto your belt. And that'll be that'll be accurate enough. We don't need the most sophisticated tool. We just want something. And you're like me. I do the same thing. My wife teases me. She says, "You're not walking that much. You're just talking with your hands." So I'm the same way. So those aren't the best for me. So I'll have Doug send you a link to probably a basic Amazon one. Get something like that. Just so we have, and really all it is just so we have a consistent tracker, so we have an idea. Because what I'll have the guys do is they're going to give you goals, like, okay, hey, this week I just want you to step this many steps per day, and we'll incrementally increase that over time.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have the guys and we're gonna help you through this, okay? Because I want to show you that absolutely this is the way to do this, and we'll be right there to help you out.
Awesome. I appreciate it very much.
Okay,
you got it, man.
All right, dude. We're gonna send that over to you, and then be looking for a message from our guy Kyle and Doug. And then we'll take it from there, dude.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Bye.
Stranger things forever.
I'm glad he called in.
Yeah.
I'm glad he called in. And for anybody listening who's in that situation, you make one small step, you stick to it. Then you make another small step, and you stick to it. The challenge is when you make the decision like he did to call in, right, be on camera or whatever, you're often like, I'll do it all now. And then you just
well, there's a lot of urgency and intensity around it when you get big. But I mean, I've had to talk to I have a lot of friends in that category from football, and it's like, it just happens. And so it's the same process though. And it applies to
we've all helped a lot of clients in this position. The biggest difference between him and the lady who needs to lose 20 or 30 pounds is the psychological piece.
Of course.
At that point, and he said it, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is how I got here. And that's exactly how that client would talk to me when they were sitting across from me. And I'm like, listen, this is what I want you to start doing. I want you're going to eat 6 meals a day. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, are you not seeing what I look like, how I got here? Like, I eat too much. It's like, listen, it's just trust me. And so getting them to trust me that this is how we're going to go about that is the hardest part, because that person really just thinks that like, this can't be possible that we're going to do this. But I'm telling you, it is. And when we do it the right way, it's amazing.
When you have Kyle talk to him, Doug, why don't you tell Kyle just to talk to him about coaching to see if he can actually do it? Because he doesn't know how much it costs. He said it's not feasible. I'd like to have Kyle talk to him a little bit more just to see if it's something you do, even for a few months. Even if he did it for 3 months, it was significantly better than doing nothing at all. And oftentimes people say that because they're afraid, not necessarily because it's not feasible. Maybe, I'm not saying he's lying, but have Kyle approach him about that.
Yeah, find out. Regardless, no matter what, I'm going to help him on this.
Yes.
This is not, I mean, I literally think if we can just help him for the first 90 days and show him, this.
Build that trust.
Yeah, build that trust. And when he starts eating more and giving that feedback of, oh my God, I'm eating so much at him, and he sees his strength go up in the gym and he doesn't see the scale go up, that's like where you get that switch for them to go like, okay, I get it, I believe it and stuff. And the fact that he's got a history of heavy squatting and deadlifting and benching is going to be a massive advantage to us.
Totally. And he's young.
Yeah. So I hope he hangs in there, sticks with us, and trusts us.
Totally. All right. I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. 30% body fat. For men, this is way too high. This is actually a bit high for women as well. So in today's episode, we're talking about how you can go from 30 to 10. What is 10% body fat? This is when you have a visible six-pack. Can you go from 30 to 10%? Yes, it's possible, but not if you guess along the way. So we're going to talk about how you can do that in today's episode.
Now, there's a huge range, right, of like body types.
Yes.
Some people can run a little bit heavier or a little bit higher body.